What if a single shipment could unravel a nation's breadbasket? Who buried the truth behind the U.S. corn rejections of 2025? And what dark force fueled Canada's rise? If you're ready to dive into this chilling mystery, drop a quick like and subscribe to uncover more true haunting tales with us. The fog hangs heavy over the port of New Orleans on a bone-chilling January morning in 2025. The Mississippi River, sluggish and gray, laps against the docks where massive cargo ships sit idle, their holds brimming with America's golden corn. The air is thick with the scent of damp wood and diesel, and the low hum of machinery underscores the tension. Dockworkers bundled in worn jackets huddle in small groups, their breath visible as they trade nervous glances. Inspectors in crisp uniforms, clipboards in hand, climb aboard the ships, their boots clanging on metal gangways. The crews watch in silence, waiting for the verdict. Then, it comes like a hammer. Rejected. Not one ship, but dozens, millions of tons of corn. Turned away with vague explanations like quality issues or pesticide residues. The news spreads like wildfire, and the port falls into a stunned hush. Imagine standing there, a farmer like Sarah Tillman from Nebraska, who spent a lifetime coaxing that corn from the earth. You've battled drought, pests, and rising costs, only to watch your harvest your family's future deemed unfit for the world. No clear reason, no appeal, just a cold rejection slip and a ship sent back to rot. Sarah's voice, raw with disbelief, echoes in a local paper. I tested my corn myself. It was clean. So why is it coming back? The question gnaws at you. Would you trust the system, or start digging for answers? I stumbled across this story in late 2024, and it's haunted me ever since. Something about it feels too orchestrated, too sinister-like, a shadow moving just out of sight. To understand the weight of this crisis, let's set the stage. The United States is the undisputed king of corn, producing 384 million metric tons in 2024, nearly a third of the global supply. This isn't just a crop. It's a $18.6 billion export juggernaut, feeding nations like China, Mexico, and Japan. Corn powers ethanol for fuel, fattens livestock for meat, and sweetens your morning cereal with high-fructose syrup. It's woven into the fabric of global trade and American identity. In Iowa, Nebraska, and Illinois, golden fields stretch to the horizon, tended by farmers who've weathered storms, recessions, and policy shifts for generations. But in early 2025, cracks began to spiderweb through this empire. Ports across Asia, Europe, and even Canada started rejecting U.S. corn shipments, citing concerns over quality standards or pesticide residues. By March, the losses had snowballed to $2 billion. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture (USDA), farmers were blindsided. In a small Nebraska town, Sarah Tillman stood in her barn, staring at a grain bin filled with corn she couldn't sell. It's like they're punishing us, she told reporters, her calloused hands gripping a test report showing her crop met US standards. Imagine her despair, entire livelihood, rejected without explanation. Would you swallow the official line, or suspect foul play? The rejections weren't random. In late 2024, global trade bodies like the Codex Alimentarius Commission tightened pesticide residue limits, citing new health studies. Europe and Asia adopted these stricter rules swiftly, but the U.S., confident in its existing standards, lagged behind. Then came the bombshell. Independent labs in Singapore and Rotterdam detected traces of chlorpyrifos, a pesticide banned for U.S. food crops since 2021, in American corn shipments. The levels were minuscule parts per billion, but enough to violate the new global thresholds. Farmers like Sarah insisted their crops were clean at harvest, pointing to possible contamination in soil or silos from decades-old pesticide use. But the timing raised red flags. Why now, when U.S. exports were already reeling from trade tensions? The coincidence felt too convenient. like a trap snapping shut. While the U.S. stumbled, Canada's corn industry soared. In 2024, Canada exported $2.5 billion in corn, a fraction of the US's output, but growing rapidly. By mid-2025, Canada had secured $1.2 billion in new deals with China, snapping up markets the U.S. lost. Their Green Harvest certification, launched in 2023, became a global darling. Marketed as eco-friendly, with minimal pesticide use, Canadian corn grown in Ontario and Quebec was hailed as a sustainable alternative. On X, posts from early 2025 buzzed with speculation. Canada's gaming the system. One Iowa farmer wrote, his frustration palpable. Another posted a grainy photo of a Canadian corn shipment docked in Shanghai, captioned, "This isn't trade, it's sabotage." Were these just bitter complaints, or was there truth to the rumors? The trade war backdrop makes this murky. On February 1, 2025, President Donald Trump, in his second term, signed executive orders imposing 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods, excluding Canadian oil. Under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, Canada retaliated with 25% tariffs on $20.6 billion of U.S. goods, including corn, escalating to $106 billion by March. Mexico followed suit, targeting U.S. corn and wheat with its own tariffs. China, the U.S.'s top corn buyer, imposed a 15% tariff on American corn, starting March 10, 2025, in response to Trump's 10% tariffs on Chinese goods. These moves gutted U.S. exports. Census Bureau data shows corn shipments to China plummeted 78% by April 2025, leaving U.S. farmers stranded. Picture a small Iowa farm in March 2025. The fields are bare, the sky a dull gray. Tom Reed, a grain cope manager, sits in his cluttered office, checking his elevator's digital logs. His screen flashes a warning. Pesticide levels 10 times higher than his physical tests. "It's like someone hacked us," he told a Des Moines Register reporter, his hands trembling as he scrolled through the falsified data. Cybersecurity experts confirmed a breach, but the trail vanished into a maze of offshore servers. Imagine being Tom, staring at numbers that could bankrupt your community. Would you fight to clear your name, or walk away, defeated? His story, buried in a trade journal last spring, still sends chills down my spine. Here's where the story takes a darker turn. In April 2025, a whistleblower named Clara Vance, a former USDA inspector, dropped a bombshell. Clara, who worked at the Port of Houston, claimed foreign regulators, possibly tied to Canadian agribusiness, were deliberately flagging U.S. corn shipments. In a grainy video posted to a small X account that went viral, she described seeing clean samples swapped with contaminated ones during inspections. "It wasn't an accident," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "Someone wanted us to fail." Before she could testify at a Senate hearing, Clara vanished. Her Houston apartment was found empty, her phone disconnected. Some say she's in hiding. Others whisper she met a darker fate. Her last message, emailed to a colleague, read, "The truth is buried in the fields. What did she know, and why did she disappear?" Clara's story sent shockwaves through rural America. On X, farmers shared her video alongside hashtags like #CornConspiracy and #SaveOurFarms. A Minnesota Cub posted, "Clara Vance is a hero. She knew the truth would cost her." Others were skeptical, calling her claims unproven or paranoid. But her disappearance was undeniable, and it fueled distrust. Imagine being a farmer reading her story late at night, wondering if your own crop was next. Would you feel safe speaking out, or keep your head down? Clara's words buried in the fields linger like a ghost, hinting at secrets hidden in the supply chain. This isn't the first time crops have been weaponized. History offers chilling parallels. In 1910, a mysterious wheat blight devastated U.S. harvests, later traced to contaminated seeds from a rival nation. No one was convicted, but the damage lingered for years. In the 1980s, the Soviet grain embargo crushed American farmers, costing $10 billion in lost exports. The 2018 U.S.-China trade war saw corn shipments to China drop 84%, with Brazil and Argentina filling the gap. Each time, farmers bore the brunt, rebuilding from the ashes. Canada's 2025 Green Harvest campaign, with its slick marketing and stricter standards, felt like a modern masterstroke. But was it just savvy business, or a calculated move to tilt the scales? By April 2025, the U.S. Senate was in an uproar. At a heated hearing in Washington, D.C., Senator Maria Lopez of Minnesota pounded the table. "This isn't just corn, it's our survival," she roared, citing a 15% drop in U.S. corn exports in the first quarter of 2025, while Canada's soared 40%. Behind closed doors, whispers grew of foreign lobbying, hacked supply chains, and cyber attacks on U.S. grain elevators. The USDA confirmed breaches in 3 Midwest COPs, with digital logs altered to show false pesticide levels. No culprits were named, but suspicion fell on Canada. Trade Minister Mary Ng dismissed the accusations as baseless, pointing to Canada's transparent certification process. Yet, the timing of their billion-dollar deals with China raised eyebrows. Let's paint another scene. It's May 2025, and a small town in Illinois holds a crisis meeting in a drafty community hall. Farmers packed the room, their faces etched with exhaustion and worry. Jane Carter, a single mother and corn grower, stands up, her hands clutching a crumpled tissue. "I lost $150,000 this year," she says, her voice breaking. "My kids' college fund is gone." The room falls silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Jane's story isn't unique. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) reported a 12% spike in suicides in rural areas. By June 2025, tied to the trade war's economic toll. Imagine being Jane, watching your dreams slip away, wondering how to feed your family. Do communities still rally together in times like these? Her story, reported in a local paper, is a gut punch, a reminder of the human cost behind the headlines. The U.S. fought back, but the damage was deep. The USDA launched a probe into the shipment rejections, testing thousands of corn samples for chlorpyrifos contamination. President Trump proposed exemptions for goods compliant with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, delaying some tariffs to ease tensions. But small farmers faced bankruptcy, unable to compete with corporate giants like Cargill, which pivoted to domestic ethanol markets. Canada, meanwhile, leaned into its Green Harvest brand, with exports hitting $3.8 billion by July 2025. Their corn, marketed as sustainable and pesticide-free, outshone U.S. crops still haunted by chlorpyrifos traces. On X, a farmer from Ohio posted, "We're not just losing markets, we're losing our way of life." Here's a darker thread to consider. In 1876, locust plagues ravaged the Great Plains, destroying crops and livelihoods. Some historians believe rival landowners spread pests to sabotage competitors. In 2025, could digital pests like hacked data be the modern equivalent? The USDA found no definitive proof of Canadian sabotage, but Clara Vance's disappearance casts a long shadow. Her final words, buried in the fields, echo reports of contaminated silos, some dating back to the 1990s when was widely used. Was it negligence, or a calculated move to undermine U.S. exports? The truth remains elusive, like fog over the Mississippi. By summer 2025, the U.S. was clawing back. New trade talks with China and Mexico eased some tariffs, and the USDA rolled out $500 million in aid for struggling farmers. But the scars were permanent. Iowa's corn output dropped 8% from 2024, and rural towns faced empty storefronts and shuttered schools. Canada's corn, meanwhile, flowed to new markets in Southeast Asia, with Vietnam and Indonesia signing $800 million in deals. The global shift was stark. Brazil and Argentina also gained, with U.S. corn exports to China falling 84% since 2018, per USDA data. When I first dug into this story last winter, I thought it was just another trade dispute, numbers, tariffs, and politics. But the more I read, the more it felt like a thriller, with real people caught in the crossfire. Imagine being Clara Vance, knowing the truth could cost you everything. Would you speak out, or stay silent? Her story, and those of farmers like Sarah Tillman and Jane Carter, stick with me. They're not just statistics, they're the heartbeat of this crisis. Sarah's defiance, Jane's heartbreak, and Clara's courage paint a picture of resilience in the face of betrayal. The corn crisis of 2025 exposed how fragile our systems are. A single rejection, a hacked log, or a missing whistleblower can ripple across the globe, shattering lives and livelihoods. Farmers rebuilt after the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, survived the Soviet embargo of the 1980s, and they'll fight on now, but at what cost? As the fog clears over those New Orleans docks, one question haunts me. Was this just economics, or did something darker take root in America's fields, waiting to strike again? The fields hold secrets, and they don't give them up easily. Sarah Tillman still farms in Nebraska, testing her corn twice a day, trusting no one. Jane Carter sold half her land to keep her kids in school, her dreams scaled back but not broken. And Clara Vance, her name lingers on X, a symbol of truth, or conspiracy, depending on who you ask. The ships keep sailing, the corn keeps growing, but the shadow of 2025 remains. This isn't just a story about trade, it's about trust, power, and the cost of survival in a world where the truth is buried deep. If this eerie tale kept you hooked, share in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Stay curious.